What's up everybody, and welcome back to Ducks and Download. In this fun little tier making video, I just wanted to go over some of my absolute favorite Sith and put them through a little tier list for everybody. I was scurrying around trying to find which one would be perfect for this because of course I didn't want it to take forever. And a lot of those Sith lists have a lot of people from the comics and the Star Wars Old Republic game that are just background characters I don't remember very well. So let's get into some of the most amazing and iconic Sith from all over the galaxy, old to new, and let's rank them. So we'll get over here and get started. First off, we're starting off with Darth Nihilus. Now I know that Darth Nihilus doesn't really do a whole lot in KOTOR 2 and was very easily beaten comparing to his powers. But the fact that Homeboy can at least absorb an entire planet, that's pretty cool. His force absorption powers are god tier almost. But that's like all he's got. And that was the perfect weapon to make Mitra Surik, a void in the force, easy to defeat him. Next we have the original villain for the Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Malak. Oh, now again guys, S, A, B, C, D, these are all still amazing Sith, but I'm going to have to put Malak on C. The way he betrays Revan was the most underhandedly. He didn't even fight him himself. He just fired upon his ship. No wonder he was able to escape. He doesn't really do much in KOTOR 1 besides just worry about what he's doing and move on. And I feel like had he attempted to really destroy Revan, he could have been a more powerful Sith, but it definitely didn't happen. This idiot, Khan, Lord Khan, leader of the darkness, or the Brotherhood of Darkness, and an all-around just idiot. He thought that he could take the Sith and make them all friends, and of course that only worked out in Darth Bane destroying them all and doing the worst possible thing to the Sith Empire. These next two are some of my favorites. We have Ludo Kresh. I'm going to put him at C though. I love the original Sith species, but Ludo Kresh is, again, just like this little worm who's always trying to just get his way, but has no real authority or power. Speaking of real authority and power, S tier is definitely Naga Sadow. If you guys have been on this channel for any amount of time, you all know Naga Sadow, however you want to say it, is one of my favorite Sith of all time. The ability to battle meditate and almost conquer Coruscant. His ability to subterfuge and to have his enemies take each other out to where he won't have to. An amazing tactician and a great fighter and an amazing Sithari, a Sith Lord. Helped build the fantastical temples that we see, of course, on Yavin 4 that is then used by the Rebel Alliance. So he's played a pretty big role in housing a pretty important thing. Not to mention, though, creating supernovas by grabbing the center of stars, and his ultimate control over Force Illusionary and Beast was... His ultimate control over Force Illusionary and Force powers was just on another level. Like even Darth Talon says, the Sith of old are the real ones. Sith today don't even hold a candle to these ancient pure-blooded Sith. Next we go with Darth Tenebrae. Darth Tenebrae, of course, Darth Plagueis' master, who is Darth Sidious' master. Darth Tenebrae, if you read the Plagueis book, he's okay. You know, he's a Bith scientist. He is the one who is trying to really push the midichlorian thing. He is, of course, killed by Plagueis and then re-killed by Plagueis, I believe, when he tries to take over his apprentice's body. Yeah, D. It's one of those things like he's not a bad Sith, just doesn't do very much. Next is another powerhouse. Definitely another S tier, guys. That's Marka Ragnos, the Sithari, the Sith Lord, before Naga Sadow. It was actually Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadow's first fight at his funeral, where he showed up as a ghost and told them, this is only going to destroy the Sith more. We have bigger problems coming. Marka Ragnos was an insatiable ruler with the ability to control minds, forces of armies, the lightning, the skies, the weather. He had a scepter that could imbue himself to steal force energy from other things, and gauntlets and talismans to increase his very own strength and endurance and connectivity to the force. He's an all-around alchemist, an all-around creator, and one of the coolest Sith out there. As much as I love Naga, when it comes to actual Sith, Marka's got to go above Naga Sadow. Alright, this is Darth Nal, or Nil. Not Nihil, because he doesn't have the extra eye, but this comes from the one Sith when Darth Krayt will take over in the EU Legends after number 6. That is the Yuzong Vong invasion. So that's Darth Nihil. He has an awesome lightsaber. It's a giant, like, claymore. We didn't see that again until Buriaga in the High Republic. Look. She's hot, okay? Like, she's really hot, and she's really cool, and she's extremely iconic, and everyone knows Darth Talon. And she's a badass. I've read the comics. I love Darth Talon. I got her, what is it, right there. There's Darth Talon right there on some of my favorite comics I have up. She's really hot. All right. Next, we have the moon. Now, if I'm going to look at the other ones real quick, is this supposed to be... All right, I believe it is. This is more than likely going to be Darth Plagueis. I'm going to put Plagueis at C, because how do you get so drunk that you let your apprentice kill you? Wow. I feel like you could have chose a way better apprentice than Palpatine. He's pure evil. You don't need pure evil. You need, like, tact and a teacher. You taught Sidious how to be a Sith, and then apparently did not think that he would never want to teach it. I hate Sidious. Let me just put that out there. He's an amazing villain. He's like one of the all-time villains of Star Wars, but I can't stand that guy. I would put Plagueis at C simply though because he does a lot of amazing things and is kind of, with his funds and his political intrigue, sets all of the stones up that Plagueis then strides over. Plagueis did none of the work. Sidious did zero work. It was really Tenebrae and Plagueis that laid the stones that Sidious was able to run with. Ooh, Count Dooku. He's not, like, he is a Sith. He turns to the dark side. He has the Sith eyes for a moment with training Savage and fighting them and stuff. But I won't put him on S because he was one of these Sith that had the great ideas but could not even follow through with them. He wanted to free the galaxy, and then he also wanted to take down Sidious because he knew he would bring destruction, enslavement, and just all... let's cut that out. Destruction and malice to the galaxy at hand. Whereas Dooku understood the common idea of, I should say, quasi-peace and allowing systems to look into themselves but still be protected. Count Dooku hated the infiltration that the Republic had on the Jedi Order, and that's really what pushed him in the ultimate way to leave, aside from, of course, being lied to by Sidious. That's all Sidious does, is lie to people and never teach anyone. I don't care. D tier Sith. Talks about the rule of 2, but lets his apprentices have apprentices and, like, does nothing to stop them, hoping they could kill him. No, he knows they can't, because he does not teach anyone anything. The only thing he taught Vader was to use his pain and anger. That's like Sith 101. That's the first thing you teach them. There's so much more after that he just decided not to touch. I can't stand Darth Sidious. Darth Momin. An amazing architect who designed Vader's castle in which to make it a conduit for the dark side to try and actually bring back Padme. What he really does, of course, though, is brings his own body back and gets in this amazing fight with Darth Vader. The mask, it was the originality of it, though. I'm going to put him at B. I love Darth Momin. His mask and his hatred that he imbued within that made it to where he could live forever. You put the mask on, he would immediately attempt to take over the wearer's body. In doing so, that is how Vader was able to use him to help build the castle. And then in the end, of course, Momin comes out, tries to kill Vader, and take back the Sith Order. What a badass. Now, this guy here, X.R. Kun. One of the original dual saber, or staff saber, I should say, wielders, inventing the style almost. I believe a lot of people put it on his shoulders, the invention of the dual-bladed staff lightsaber. Very aggressive fighter, and a very aggressive Jedi who only wanted to prove that he had more power, that he could be bigger and better, which of course led him to the dark side. He would learn from so many ancient Sith ghosts, Freedom Nat especially, and with those teachings would be an amazing Sith Lord who led with the Mandalorians to almost conquer Republic space. Now, of course, his power would lead to his ultimate demise, as he's now trapped pretty much forever in one of the Yavin temples, being consumed, trying to find immortality. He is immortal, but he's never going to leave that temple. That's the problem with the Sith. You can be immortal, but only one guy's actually been able to truly live multiple lives. Not you. Him. Tenebrae. Now, this is not the Tenebrae we know. That is the Emperor, Darth Vitiate. His original name, his true identity, is a pure-blood Sith by the name of Darth Tenebrae. Tenebrae had the ability to control the Force on a level of hate that we have not seen in ever, even with Sidious. He killed an entire planet's worth of Sith Lords, absorbing their power to create his immortality. He is the Emperor who turned Revan and Malak, controlling their minds against their will. He is the immortal Emperor and the leader of many factions that throughout the Old Republic took over large swaths of the galaxy. He's an amazing tactician, an amazing ruler, and so hell-bent on being the most powerful Sith, nothing will stand in his way. Next we have, I believe that is Canis Mur. Canis Mur is the creator of the Rakghoul disease and has talismans of power that he has been used throughout many different occasions and by other Sith and other people. He's a very, very strong fighter. I'm putting him up there, though, because, of course, the Rakghoul disease was originally supposed to be something that he could control. With his talisman, he could take over the mind of any Rakghouls around him and use them like an army. It's pretty devious. And then once you see what happens, the Rakghoul disease spreads like wildfire. So he really put an impact on the rest of the galaxy. Here we have Freedom Nat, one of the main teachers for Exar Kun. I'm going to put him down on the C list because, yes, he does conquer Ossus, which is a very, very powerful city in the planet of... No, it's Isis. He does, of course, conquer Isis in the Onderon system, the moon of Duxin, of course, where, I get my channel name. Freedom Nat is a very powerful Sith Lord, but he had small goals, it almost felt like. After conquering Onderon, he was just content on making his keep and building up his power there instead of conquering the rest of the universe like most other Sith Lords would. Now here we have, I believe... This is the apprentice to Darth Zana for a small... Like Darth Comac or Cognate or Magic. I can't remember her name. Not very much known about her. Very Legends heavy. Like nothing canon at all. I think this was that like Jason Solo? Yeah, guys. I mean, come on. Just another whiny Luke and Anakin. Savage Opress. I'm going to put him at B. I like Savage because he wanted nothing more than to be like his brother. Especially when he was imbued with all of those crazy dark side energies from Mother Talzin. Had they worked together, I think they definitely probably could have taken down a few more people. But the Sith do get very cocky and stuff. And Dooku did happily beat them both. And then Sidious slaughtered both of them pretty much, killing Savage and maiming Maul. I also just like his name. I mean, it's one of those like really obvious, like, oh yeah, Savage Oppression, like that makes sense. But Savage Opress just sounds like an awesome Sith Lord name. Alright, next we have one of the most amazing Sith ever. I'm not going to put him on S though, guys. You know I love Darth Vader. Love Vader. But he doesn't really know much about being a Sith. He's an icon. He is an absolute icon. He can bleed a crystal. He has led atrocities on many planets. He has helped conquer the entire galaxy with his master, Darth Sidious. But he's not a real Sith. Honestly, rethinking this, I love him to death. I gotta put him at C, guys. He is strong. He is powerful. He strikes fear into anyone who sees that mask. But he doesn't really do Sith stuff. He just has a red lightsaber and wields it around and force push or pull. He wasn't taught very many Sith magics and can't do very much Sith alchemy or Sith force use, so I gotta put him a little lower. This guy, Hagrom Crush, was the very first king of the pureblood Sith when Ajuntapal and the Fallen found him. I'm putting him down at D because he's not really even like a Sith that you might think. He is a Sith that uses the Force in extremely minor ways, The Force was not as imbued into the Sith and their species until they were crossbred by the original fallen Jedi. Alright, now, as a Sith, Darth Revan. C tier. He made none of those choices himself. That was entirely Emperor Vitiate forcing Revan and Alec to become Darth Revan and Malak. Once his hold would have been taken from them, they kind of got back who they were. Not Malak, he gave into it. He happily turned into the dark side. Revan, on the other hand, wanted to remain a Jedi. And that's every major accomplishment he's ever made in his life was during his Jedi phase. So, love him to death. One of the most iconic Sith in the entire world because of his look. But just not actually a Sith. He was a puppet. Now, speaking of an actual Sith who really does conquer most of the galaxy by himself with his own army and isn't afraid to actually fight, unlike that idiot Sidious, Darth Krayt. Darth Krayt is an amazing Jedi turned Sith. Asherad Het, a Tatooinian Tusken Raider. A Tusken Raider turned into a Jedi, trained by Ki-Adi-Mundi, and then turns to the dark side after being abducted by the Yuzong Vong and horrifically tortured. He is the leader over the one Sith, over Darth Talon and all of his other, minor buddies and whatnot. An absolute powerhouse with a crazy armor that he got from Yuzong Vong technology that he eventually gives up. And when he returns after de-aging himself and removing a Yuzong Vong curse to only be more powerful and retake his one Sith from the usurpers underneath him. Speaking of usurpers, I'm just going to throw him there real quick. Wynock doesn't do anything besides just kick Krayt when he's down. It's kind of the same thing with like Malak. Or like at least Malak actually helped conquer a lot. Wynock didn't really need to conquer anything because by the time he became the Sith Emperor, everything was conquered. So what'd he do? Ooh, yep. S tier Sith, Darth Maul. Maul was not about personal glory. He understood it and he knew that he could obtain it by making sure the Sith Empire prospered greatly. Many other Sith would look so many other Sith would only look into themselves that was the very poison that would destroy the Sith Empire from the inside. Had every Sith been like Darth Maul, the entire galaxy, hands down, would have been controlled by the Sith. 100%. Darth Maul finds balance in the end and is able to even turn himself into a Force ghost, understanding a bit of the flaws in the way that he thought of things by only using the dark side, by only bathing in those waters to control the Force instead of being a part of it. What makes him the most dangerous Sith ever, pretty much? The fact that he understood his folly and became better. That's dangerous right there. That means he's a powerhouse. All right, Starkiller A. Totally non-canon, but if you look into the story, goes after Luke, takes him down. Obi-Wan, done. Yoda, done. Leia, bye. Han, out of here. In the original trilogy, had Starkiller existed in the way that we see it at the end of the movies, especially in that armor, when he's working for Palpatine and has defeated Vader, no one can touch him. Galen Merrick is a powerhouse. He's a Mary Sue, 100%. But damn, that design is dope. The claws, the mask, the akimbo lightsabers. Love Starkiller. I won't put him on S though. That's the canon factor. I believe, to me, had he also then turned canon for this, he'd be too powerful. You can't have him in there. He kind of throws the power balance off really badly. So A tier though, because he's iconic. Asajj Ventress. I love Asajj. I think Asajj Ventress is one of the most amazing Darksiders out there, but not a Sith. This is the Sith list. She is an amazing Darksider, an amazing fighter, a lover, a traumatized individual who just wants to make herself not hurt. She's not a Sith though. Never fully trained by Dooku, as she was supposed to always just be an assassin. But I just can't put her too high up on this list because she was never really a Sith in my eyes. All right, next we have Tulak Horde. Tulak Horde, an amazing conqueror, one of the greatest swordsmen to apparently have ever touched a Sith saber, and conqueror of many planets. Putting him at B, though, due to the fact that you don't really see much of him alive, and it's all hearsay and backwards and, history and stuff. Love his design, love his character. Maybe with a little bit more limelight, he would definitely get S or A tier. Alright guys, now speaking of an S tier Sith, originally, I would have said S tier. But as again, I'm thinking of a Sith. He wanted redemption in the end. He found folly in the way he did things. But he is the original exile, the leader of the original Jedis after the Great Schism that go to Korriban and take over the entirety of the Sith species. Junta Paul definitely has to go to an A tier list for me. One of the most amazing duelists to have ever touched a lightsaber, proto-saber, vibro sword, whatever history you throw him into. That's the other problem. He's kind of like all around it. We see pictures of him with a lightsaber. We see pictures of him with a proto-saber. We see him using vibro blades. It kind of just depends on what book or era of time the thing was written in on what he's using. This next one for me, Darth Traya, definitely S tier. Darth Traya is one of the few Sith that is actually so in line with what the original Sith philosophy was that she's going to completely destroy the Force. She uses her dark side and her aggression not because she wants to conquer, but because she is so tired of knowing that it is the Force's constant meddling with human affairs that leads to death, dishonor, war, conquest, and all these things. She believes if the Force wasn't constantly trying to find balance, things would just exist in a more harmonious state. Darth Traya wants to kill the Force. The original Sith, that's their whole point, to conquer the Force and to use it at their whim. She's going a step beyond that and wants it gone forever. Next, we have an Empress lady that has a whip that fights Luke. That's like all I know about her. Darth Malgus. That's an S tier Sith. Always angry, always strong. More you hit him, stronger he gets. Conqueror. Led the siege on the Jedi Temple of Coruscant and Coruscant itself, and won. A Sith that is never afraid to take the front line and to push the battle deep into enemy lines. Never afraid to be outnumbered, finding all of those moments to revel in as he combats his own inner weaknesses. Darth Malgus is so evil, he couldn't even stand the idea of the current Sith Empire and its one Sith Emperor and felt they were too weak, too stagnant to even allow peace treaties. If it was up to Malgus, the entire galaxy would burn under his boots. Alright, now we got Darth Maul. I'm gonna put Darth Maul in the A tier. He's an amazing Sith. Again, though, he suffers from the same problem that a lot of these other late Siths suffer from. The rule of two, and sadly being taught by Darth Sidious, or shall I say, not being taught by Darth Sidious. Have you ever noticed any of the other Sith using any powers? No, Darth Tyrannus uses Force Lightning, which he found on his own before Sidious. And Sidious uses Force Lightning and Maelstrom and all these other things. Vader, Force Choke, that's it. Maul, I haven't seen him do any of those things, really. He's definitely more of a fighter than a Force user, but he had the Force within him. I don't understand why he didn't use it as much. So that's why I got to put him on A. Great assassin, great Sith, just I feel like he could have been more. Even in the Clone Wars series, when he gets to finally come back, that's when he really starts to shine, when he's taking his own road and not just following the worst master ever, Sidious. All right, now this is Zhozan, who is an amazing Sith alchemist, beginner of the mighty things like the Leviathan, the creator of so many horrific Sith species, perhaps even the Tukata. An extremely powerful ancient Sith Lord, one of the original Fallen, and teacher and original tormentor, and a teacher of Darth Krayt later on. Her forte and expertise in Sith magic and alchemy is almost unparalleled. Now, speaking of another immortal Sith, I love this guy. I loved the way he did his anger, the way he did his powers, the way they did his look, held together by pure pain and anger and suffering. He used all of that torture that he felt to turn it into power to make him the undying Sith Lord. Impossible to kill until Mitra Surik is able to finally convince him the ultimate way to move on, to become powerful, and to finally get back at Kreia. Give in. Let go. And he does. But all up until that point, a vicious Sith Lord, ready to destroy at any mention. Now we have Darth Zana. Darth Zana was a very good Sith who understood the Sith Order very well, I believe, and kind of understood its machinations within the Rule of Two. Her master, of course, being Darth Bane. Darth Zana would go on to then lead through the Sith line that we would get to Sidious. Not completely canon, so I want to put her at B instead of A, and her character is really fun and cool, but let's be honest here. When we're talking an amazing character, I'm happy they're going with this version of Darth Bane. If they were going with the Clone Wars canon version of Darth Bane, he's D tier because he's just a ghost, and then he immediately gets thrown off by Yoda. Like, you're not even here. You're not even... Go away. It's just the dark side playing tricks. That's not strong. This Darth Bane is a powerhouse. The thought bomb on Ruusan, the way he dismantles the Sith from the very inside and destroys the Brotherhood of Darkness to create the Rule of Two, a misunderstanding he learned from a Sith holocron by Darth Revan. Now, not only was it that Sith holocron that he would go to learn from, but he would learn of essence transfer, the truest form of near immortality that a Sith can reach aside from, like, Vitiate. Or this next one, the person who taught Darth Bane most of his ancient, lifelong bringing magics, Darth Andedu, the Undead King. This Sith Lord is known for being one of the original Sith to find a way to keep his body sustained. Now, of course, his face might rot off and he has a skeleton face, but that seems more like a dark side trope, more of like the corruption and the destruction from the inside. But he is also one of the few Sith that got to actually live forever, in a sense, and had the ability to make himself near immortal. Alright guys, well there's my Sith list. Thank you all so much for sticking by, and tell me what you think of this tier list and who is your favorite Sith Lord. Have an amazing rest of your evening, and as always, may the Force serve you well.